decisive win shows that Democrats are very unhappy with the direction the country's going, are very unhappy with President Trump.
Nancy,
okay, sure.
We're going to have to leave it there. Nancy Solomon is the host of WNYC's Ask Governor Murphy and the podcast Dead End, a New Jersey political murder mystery. Nancy, thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
WNYC is supported by Netflix, presenting Train Dreams, based on Dennis Johnson's novella of the same name. Joel Edgerton stars as a logger who leads a life of unexpected depth and beauty. In select theaters November 7th, on Netflix November 21st.
When Corey sat down next to me in first period chemistry class, my heart fluttered. I'll never forget his first words to me. Yo.
Join us for True Stories, all about advice. Next time on the Moth Radio Hour from PRX.
Tonight at 9 on WNYC.
Marketplace Morning Report is next, and then later on Morning Edition, Democrat Abigail Spanberger has become the first woman to be elected governor in Virginia.
We sent a message to the whole world. Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship.
More on Spanberger's big win and other key election results from Tuesday. That's in about 15 minutes on Morning Edition. Upper 40s right now and partly sunny skies, mostly sunny and 63 on this Wednesday, November 5th. A light wind this morning, and then watch out for the winds to gusts to 30 miles an hour. And then tonight, a slight chance of shower, mid-40s, breezy, winds gusting to 50-plus miles an hour. It's 6:52.
A subset of Trump tariffs get their day in court, the High Court.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Think or Swim. More at schwab.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. The Supreme Court is set to hear arguments today on whether the president can use emergency powers to impose tariffs. A series of lower courts have ruled against the president. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer will be monitoring.
Today's hearing focuses on two cases the Supreme Court consolidated. They were brought by a group of states and businesses who say they're being hurt by President Trump's tariffs. Henrietta Trey's, co-founder of the consulting firm Veda Partners, says one lead plaintiff is an Illinois toy company that brought its case.
Because the tariffs are punitive and have materially hurt their business to the point of making them borderline bankrupt.
The company, Learning Resources, says it'll pay about $100 million in import taxes this year, up from around $2 million last year. President Trump imposed these tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, or IEEPA. Elizabeth Goitein is an attorney at the Brennan Center for Justice, which filed a friend of the court brief in support of Learning Resources.
There's a long list of actions that a president can take under IEEPA. That list does not include the word tariffs.
Another plaintiff argument, tariffs are taxes, and only Congress has the power to tax, but it didn't specifically delegate that power to the president. Alden Abbott was general counsel for the Federal Trade Commission in the first Trump administration. He's now at the Mercatus Center. He says the Trump administration is arguing that IEEPA gives the president broad emergency powers and that the U.S. trade imbalance is an emergency because
the trade deficits have national security implications.
The president's lawyers also say IEEPA lets the president regulate trade, and tariffs are part of that, even if the law doesn't specifically mention them. Abbott says the administration's strongest argument is probably that Congress and the courts should keep their noses out of foreign affairs.
They say any president has broad authority to try and advance his or her foreign affairs agenda in a broad manner, and that certainly should include tariffs.
Alden says Learning Resources and the other plaintiffs have a strong case, but it's not insurmountable. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
China's government is hosting a big trade show. China's premier said a recent surge in trade restrictions had hurt the global economy, adding that Beijing would push for reforms to international rules. Big U.S. companies are turning out in force at this International Import Expo as they look to increase sales in China at a moment this trade truce was declared when the U.S. and China presidents met last week. The BBC's Stephen McDonnell has more.
Notable amongst exhibitors is the US soybean industry, which now hopes to ramp up exports to China following commitments made when Xi Jinping met Donald Trump last week. Major American corporations are also here, attempting to increase sales into China during this period of trade war détente. Car brands Ford and General Motors, tech companies like Boston Scientific, as well as semiconductor producer Qualcomm all have a presence at the expo. When Premier Li Qiang launched the event today, he spoke of the severe impact which protectionist measures have had on the global economy recently, but said Beijing would work to make trade rules fairer, more reasonable and transparent.
BBC's China correspondent Stephen McDonnell. It is now the longest U.S. federal government shutdown in history, 35 complete days going into the 36th. Among key issues, the future of the Affordable Care Act premiums set to shoot upward without action. Markets, S&P futures are down 0.3%, NASDAQ futures are down 0.4%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Total Wine & More, offering wines, beers, and spirits for fall celebrations. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly. B21.
Using fresh calculations from Autodata and Ward's Intelligence, car and truck sales are down 6.7% September to October. This is a reading on consumer sentiment. Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman reports.
Motor vehicle sales didn't fall into a pothole in October because consumers are tapped out from inflation or because automakers have jacked up prices because of tariffs. Instead, it's all about federal subsidies for electric vehicles, or EVs. They've been in place for years until the Trump administration canceled them beginning October 1st. So, says nationwide economist Ben Ayers,
August and September, anyone who still wanted to get that credit tried to buy an electric vehicle. And once that expired, EV sales really fell off the table.
With federal subsidies, EVs reached about 8% of overall sales in the U.S. Drivers like them, environmentalists like them. But with subsidies gone, EV sales aren't likely to fully rebound for months or years, says Garrett Nelson at CFRA Research, for just one reason: cost.
The average EV is 16% more expensive. So if you look at September, about $58,000. The average new vehicle cost about $50,000, which was a record high.
And now, with federal support for EVs gone, automakers aren't likely to invest in new technology and production. Instead, Nelson says,
we're expecting to see internal combustion engine vehicles retake some of that market share from EVs that they had lost over the last few years.
Gas-electric hybrids, meanwhile, aren't affected by the end of federal EV subsidies.
The hybrid market is red hot right now. 4 automakers invested very heavily, are now benefiting from that in terms of market share gains: Toyota, Honda, Ford, and Hyundai Kia.
EV sales are still growing strongly abroad, especially in Europe and China. Tesla is the only major U.S.-based auto company making a significant play in those markets. But lately, it's been struggling. Sales in Europe have fallen sharply, partly because of Elon Musk's political unpopularity there, says Columbia Business School climate economist Gernot Wagner. He says in China, Tesla's problem isn't politics, it's prices.
There are cheaper, better electric vehicles available on the market.
Tesla's fiercest competitor, Chinese automaker BYD, sells new EVs for as little as $10,000, just a fraction of the cost of a new Tesla. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
And after the cargo plane crash in Louisville that killed 7 people last evening, also note that many UPS package shipments will be affected with shifts canceled at the major UPS hub nearby. In Los Angeles, I'm David Brancaccio. Marketplace Morning Report from APM, American Public Media.
WNYC